It just really helps us to really, nail down our assessment of, what you want, what you don't want, what's working, what's not working, stuff like that. So give me a second here. I'm gonna actually put that link in the chat for anybody that would like to fill that out for us. All right. So let's see here. All right. So anyway, let me get started here. All right. So the one thing I wanted to really address also today is okay. Someone says my was the text about the consciousness class, Dr. Boyce, because that's what my text says. Yeah, this is financial consciousness training, Taquana. So that's what the text was. The text was inviting the students to come into consciousness class. That's what it did, right? The link works, right? Did I do that right? I hope I didn't mess up. Yeah, this is financial consciousness training. We do this every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, and the goal is to help you become financially aware. The goal is to help you understand all the connections with money, how money works, how money affects your life in different ways, just how to be in tune with what's going to happen with your economics. Because generally speaking, you'll find that things that you think a lot about, you become really good at. Things that you are obsessed with, you just intuitively understand these things. Like think about that kid who spends every single moment, on the basketball court. Like he's always got a basketball with him. He's always talking about basketball and he's following his favorite players. Well, that player eventually learns how to make moves without even thinking about it. Basketball becomes part of his subconscious. It becomes part of his DNA. So he doesn't have to think about the next move. He just does it. Or somebody who's like a rapper who's always in the studio. He's always rapping. He's always bopping his head to a beat. He's always listening like Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre had all these albums and he was just listening to music all day long and taking all these different styles of music constantly. Well, eventually Dr. Dre became a great producer because he just instinctually knows what something should sound like. He knows what sounds are missing, what sounds can be added, how to spice it up, how to tone it down, whatever, right? So really economics is the same way. If you're spending time thinking about economics, studying economics, talking about economics, processing your economic awareness, you're going to be better at money and economics and obtaining money, knowing where money is, how to get more money, etc., than people who don't think about it. And a lot of people think about money pretty much in the context of I just need some money. I hope somebody will give me some money, or I'm going to go to work so I can get some more money. And it should be, in my opinion, much, much deeper than that. And because then you can really understand this economy and how capitalism, can be your friend or your enemy depending on what situation you're in. Now, as far as that survey goes, I keep trying to grab the link. Here we go. Here's the URL. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the link to that survey. I'm gonna pop it in here. If y'all could just fill this out for me really quick. I know some of you, a lot of you did, some of you didn't. And if you didn't, if you could, please fill that out. That would really mean a lot to me because it allows us to really just sort of know how we can serve you better and what's working and what's not. All right, before I move on, I don't want to be rude. I want to just say hi to a few of you that are here. Let's see, Akila, Aisha, Albert, Allison, Angel. No, don't fill it out again, Angel. If you already filled it out, don't do it again. Thank you. Great question. Yeah, don't do it again. Just one time is good enough. Marcia, Mark, Henry, Monica, I see you. Terrell Griffin, Tequila Bush, Tara Redmond, Tiffany Johnson, Tania Patillo, the Patillo family. The Patillo family. Woo, buddy. Yeah. You talk about building a legacy. I met that family. My gosh, I'm so impressed. Yvonne, Winston, Vernon, Zakia, let's see who else. Michael Wilson and Monica. I see you. All right. So let's start with a couple of things. Let's go to the slides. I always say we're gonna go to the slides, and then I never do because something else comes to mind. But I'm gonna pop in the slides right now. All right. So as I pull these slides up, don't forget the Stock Options Summit happens in Los Angeles, April 19th and 20th. If you want to join us and learn stock options, it's a great way to make money. Oh, and that's what I want. That's where I actually wanted to start, not with the slides. Okay. See, I'm gonna back up a little bit. Um, I was mentioning earlier that some things in financial markets are predictable, some things are not predictable. Well, what are some things that are predictable? Well, one thing that's predictable is that a person who consistently puts money in the S&P 500 over a 10, 20, 30-year period can easily climb out of poverty. It's not hard. They can climb out of poverty by consistently investing the same amount of money that it costs to go to Popeye's Chicken. That's where the $5 a day plan comes from. BlackWealthMasterPlan.com. The $5 a day plan is one of the most important things that we offer in the Black Business School. We want everybody to do it. So BlackWealthMasterPlan.com if you haven't done that yet. What are some other things you can predict? Well, how many of you, give me a yes or no, give me a yes in the chat if you have heard me consistently screaming for 5 years about the rise of Bitcoin. How many of you have heard me just literally screaming from the rooftops, repeatedly saying over and 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 over again that Bitcoin was going to likely have a run and that you really want to go ahead and hop in because you don't want to miss this. Have you heard me say this? Okay. So you know that I've been talking about this. I probably mentioned it 20,000 times online. And some people take action, some people don't. Now, what is Bitcoin doing right now? Look at the screen. Bitcoin is at 62,000. It's almost back at its record high. Not long ago, Bitcoin was at 16,000. A year ago, December 16th, 2022, about a year and 4 months ago, Bitcoin was at 16,781. So this means that in that 1 year, you could have tripled your money. Was that triple or is that quadruple? I think that's quadruple, actually, almost quadruple. 4x your money. A person that simply took a small amount of money and just bought a little bit of Bitcoin every week consistently on autopilot would have a ton of money right now. And the reason that I predicted this is because all of the fundamental factors pointed to a rise in the price of Bitcoin. Now, the good news is that the fundamental factors are still pointing to a rise in the price of Bitcoin. There are still fundamentals that support the idea that 62 could be the beginning of an even longer run. That in 4 years, when if we're sitting here talking every day, if I'm still, active and healthy, I'm gonna be here, right? I hope you'll be here too. We'll be looking back. I believe we'll be looking back at 62,000 and saying, "Oh my gosh, way back, wow, back in 2024, we could have bought this for 62,000. Now it's a quarter million. Now it's 300,000, whatever." So, do I think that Bitcoin's going to continue to run? The answer is absolutely yes. But this was easily predictable, and this is one of those examples. Remember, what does the word poor stand for? Anybody remember what the acronym POR stands for? Type it in the chat. What does POR, POOR, stand for? POR stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. This was an easy opportunity. This was not rocket science. This was one of the easiest predictions I've ever made. If you go back even further, if you really had a little bit of financial vision and you went back to 2019, you're buying Bitcoin for $3,900. $3,900. So your money, more about what it goes about 14x. Like so literally you put in every dollar you put in, you get $15 back. This is where money's made in this economy. This is where the money's at. This is where the money resides. It doesn't reside at your job. The money is not at your job. The money is in the financial markets. The money's in the stock market. And one other benefit of being a professor and going through a ton of data, going all the way back 100 years, is that it is without a doubt. I mean, I am completely convinced on everything I love that the secret to wealth in America is participating in the stock market. Because think about this, this is where the billionaires live. This is where the people that have all the money that they go on $50,000 vacations. This is what they do with their money. This is where they live. So why wouldn't you, if you want to have money, why would you not just simply copy the actions of the people that are making the most money? This is what stock market participation does. So I want you to give me a yes or no. This consciousness exercise. How many of you are invested in the stock market right now? Give me a yes if you are, if you own any shares of stock at all anywhere. Give me a yes. Okay. All right. So I want eventually my goal, my dream, and I hope you'll give me this dream. I'd like my birthday's in June. If you can give me a birthday present, this is what I'd like. I would like to be able to ask that question and have 95% of you say yes. And that means, and all you got to do is today, just get on an app, pick Robinhood, Acorn, Stash, E-Trade, Ameritrade, whatever, and just buy like that first share of stock. In fact, I did something where I literally explained how to buy your first share of stock. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it online. Okay. Uh, let me see here. Give me 1 second. Let me find this. Okay, here we go. How to buy your first share of stock. This is something we have in the Black Business School. So I'm gonna share this with you and put this in the chat. Yeah, it's looks like it's here we go. It's an open video where I show you how to buy a first share of stock. We do this on Ameritrade. So let me put this in the chat really quick. And that to me would make me feel good because based on what I know and the expertise you develop from going through reams of data on the stock market, I believe this is the best thing I can do for you. This is going to change everything for your family. And then the next level is I want you to go to level two. After we get to level one, after 95% of us get to level one, we're going to go to level two. Level two is not, are you invested in the stock market? Level two is, are you consistently investing in the stock market? Are you in a weekly habit of putting some amount of money into the stock market? It can be a tiny amount, very, very small amount of money if you want to. But if you have more money, if you are a person of say, who makes say more than 50,000, 60,000, $80,000 a year, I would encourage you to do more than just a little bit. And then once we hit level two, that's when I know that your family is going to be rich. When you're consistently putting money into the stock market, then at that point, I don't worry about anything, because I know at some point your family is going to be doing better than most other people in America, including the white people. I know that there are some black people who believe that we're always supposed to be second fiddle to white folks. That's not true. Most white people are not doing this. Most white people don't know the things that we're talking about in this class. So stop. Let's never ever believe that being black means you're supposed to be a day late and a dollar short and less informed and all that. Being black is not a handicap. It's a blessing. Okay. All right. So so let's hop in and let me share my slides with you. I want to talk for a second about why we don't loan money to relatives and what happens in our family economies. If you know, in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, I talk extensively about the Black family as a key to economic power that often gets ignored. And one of the things that happens in terms of why that wealth gets lost is because we violate codes of conduct. My wife, who runs our Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School, she's done entire workbooks on financial trauma, and what we found is that financial trauma is very, very high in a lot of Black families. For example, has anybody heard people say things like, "This is why I don't loan money to relatives"? Give me a yes if you've ever heard people say that. That's why I don't loan money to relatives. I don't do business with relatives. I don't want. I know you don't give money to family, right? And that becomes a kind of a common thing, and people brag about cutting family members off and how many relatives they don't talk to anymore. And I think that's a very dangerous trend because what happens is that it reminds me of like a person who has a body where that you've got two arms and two legs, and your right arm gets mad at the left arm, so the right arm cuts off the left arm, and then the left leg gets mad at the right arm, so the left leg, so in your head you're like, I hate my right arm, I'm gonna cut my right arm off. And then you're like, God, my left leg made me so mad today. I cut my left leg off. And then next thing you know, you done cut off all your limbs and you're just a big nub, and you can't go to work, you can't move, you can't do anything because you're just a nub now because you cut everything off. You cut off everything that allowed you to get things done. So when you're constantly cutting each other off and constantly refusing to do any form of business with each other, you're really killing your ability to explore economic possibilities. Now, here's the hard part. The hard part is that some of your relatives are crazy. Some of your relatives have a significant amount of unhealed, undiagnosed trauma, and it's consistently causing all kinds of chaos and problems. Some of you have loved ones who dabbled in drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol has been the number one destroyer of Black families. It's cost Black people probably $5 to $10 trillion in economic possibility over the last 30, 40 years. And it's hard. It's really hard. There's some people that you can't work with. It's just like, my cousin's crazy. My mother is evil, whatever, right? And I understand all that. And so you can't fix all of that, but there are ways that there are soft skills out there that you can consciously learn that will help you to deal with people based on wherever they are, right? Just learning basic things like empathy and how to listen to people, make sure that they're heard. There's a book that just came out called Super Communicators that I'm going to get because in my own life, I want to be a better communicator. I want to be able to understand the nuances of the people that I love so that I can find a way to make things work with them. Because when you get those frictions and things don't work out and you cut things off, then you're also cutting off possibilities and opportunity. So effectively, what we'll talk about here quickly is building the Black economy within the context of the Black family. The family's all you really got. We know that those corporate jobs are not going to give you what your family could give you if you have a good family. And if you don't have a good family, you can build family. I did that in my life. I didn't have the people in my life that I wanted in my family, so I found people and I said, okay, I'm gonna make you into a relative because you're a good person and you're gonna be my play cousin. So I'm gonna treat you just like I would treat a loved one because we're both on code. We understand each other. So one of the things I would say when it comes to loaning money to relatives is I don't think you have to have a clear, simple policy, right? Clear, simple policies like I don't loan money to family. I think that's not. I think that's oversimplifying the problem. I would say that the a better policy might be I only loan money to family under certain conditions. And so one thing that you may want to consider is only loaning money when you have an actual contract, when you have something that's written down and documented so there's no misunderstandings. Misunderstandings cause a lot of problems when it comes to money, where somebody says, "Well, I thought you told me that I only had to pay half back." No, I didn't say that. I said pay it all back. And then, and then you go back and forth over who said what. Whereas if you have a contract or some piece of paper, something simple, some simple document that can help you avoid that. Also, when you have cousins, anybody ever have relatives that come to you with like half-baked business ideas and they're like, "Hey, cuz, just give me your life savings and we can start a liquor store and go make a ton of money together." Anybody see that? Well, this is why a lot of athletes go broke. A lot of athletes go broke because what happens is that when you have money, you become a target. So anybody who needs money for any stupid project, because they came up with some idea while they were smoking weed, is going to come to you and say, "Hey, you put up $100,000 and we can make this happen." And then when you say no, they say, "Oh, cuz you started playing in the NBA, you think you're better than everybody else." It's like, no, I don't think I'm better than you. I just think that that idea is stupid, and I'm not going to put all my money on the line to pursue this crazy idea. I'm taking all the risk. I'm putting up all the money, and all you did was come up with the idea. And I took Dr. Boyce's class, and what I learned in Dr. Boyce's class is that ideas don't mean nothing if they're not executed. Who cares about your little idea? That's nice. It's nice you came up with the idea to come up with a liquor store that also sells cupcakes, but people already know how to start liquor stores and sell cupcakes. So there's nothing really special about an unexecuted idea. It really is a completely unfertilized egg. It's a baby that hasn't been born. It hasn't been raised. It isn't full grown. So ideas have value, but you can't assume that an idea is the same as actually building a business and putting in the 50,000 hours of work that might be required to make that business go, right? Years and years and years, decades of hard labor can be required to make a business really reach its fullest potential. But some people think if I come up with an idea in 5 minutes, that that's the same as building a business. Well, those are people that you can't really invest in, honestly, because honestly, if you make the investment, it has to be done very, very carefully because you're taking a huge risk. Lots of people don't understand what it really takes to really develop an idea, right? Like if I'm thinking about investing in something that somebody's doing, first thing I want to know is your track record. What have you built in the past? What have you done in the past? This is what the financial markets do too. When they evaluate a company's new CEO, they say, "Well, what has he done in the past? What companies has he turned around in the past? What has she done to show that she can run a company like this and get it to the level that we're trying to get it to?" And if there's nothing there, then what's happened is that that's an inherently risky investment. So when you come to me with an idea, the first thing I want to know is what's your track record? What have you built that showed consistent, continuous effort over a long period of time? It might even be something as basic as like raising a child to the age of 18. That takes consistent effort, right? Literally, I'll tell you what. Sometimes I dabble in the whole debate about where people talk about dating or marrying a woman that has kids versus a woman that doesn't have kids. And I say, well, one thing that a woman with kids can show you is that she's has the ability to consistently pour into another person or another thing over a long period of time. That is a level of maturity that a lot of people don't have. There are a lot of people who can't stick to a project for more than 2 months, right? So to me, if you've raised a 12-year-old, that says, okay, for the last 12 years, you've done the same thing every single day, and really micromanage the existence of this human being. That's pretty impressive. That actually translates into how much I might trust you when it comes to some other endeavor or some other business. So again, little cues like that to show me a track record. Going to college, that's another example. I remember learning a long time ago. I thought going to college was all about getting the degree or having a certain skill that would get you the job, right? So I thought that a person who didn't go to college could be just as qualified instantly for a job as a person who did. And to some extent that can be true, right? College degrees should be questioned because they're overpriced and they don't give the value that's always promised. But here's one thing that college gives you that you don't always get in the real world. College shows that you have the ability to set a 4-year goal and stick to that 4-year goal. Work every single day for 4 straight years to get this thing done. That means something. That means something. Because let me just tell you, when you've seen as much as I've seen, I mean, think about this. I go around the world and I constantly get pitched people's businesses. Like I can literally do a Black Shark Tank show from all of the businesses I get pitched everywhere I go. Right. And I love it. I appreciate it. I love hearing your stories. I love hearing you tell me about what your plans are, what you've done. It's exciting to me. And and one thing that I can tell you is that over time I've developed that ability to smell out, situations that are more serious than others. I have questions I know to ask. I also will ask, okay, so this is a great idea. How many years have you invested in this idea? How much money have you put into this idea? And what I'm doing is I'm applying another theory from finance. They call this the lemon theory. The lemon theory says that if you are partnering with me and I have all the skin in the game and you have no skin in the game, that's a very risky situation for me because basically what you're saying is heads we win, tails you lose, right? Because you're asking me to put in the money, you're asking me to put in the time, and all you did was come up with the idea, which is great, but you haven't put anything up for that idea. So be really careful about investing in projects where the other party isn't putting something consistently into the pot. And also where they haven't already done that yet, right? So if someone's already put 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears into a business, and they say, I invested my last $50,000 in this business, that tells me that they're serious and that they're committed, and it might also give me indications to whether or not they're actually skilled enough to execute this. So the quality of the idea is not as important as the ability of the CEO to actually execute the idea to fruition. And it's not always about just what your skill set is. It's really about little things like discipline and determination. Some people have more discipline than others. Some people get distracted very easily. So sometimes if you're not careful, you can end up trying to run a marathon with a sprinter. That's what you're doing. You're running. Sprinters are people that can run really fast for a short period of time and then they get tired. A marathon runner is a person who might not run as fast, but they're not going to stop. They're going to keep going. And so, in any relationship, whether it's a business relationship or a romantic relationship, if you're trying to do something that's lasting, like till death do us part, or we're going to build this business over the next 20 years, make sure you're running with somebody that has some endurance. And you got to find evidence of that. Right. And talking means nothing. Talking means nothing. Ideas don't mean much more than talking. Right. And what and that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine because I think that hip hop culture, when I think about how Diddy used to always talk about what he was going to do, I'm going to buy the Carolina Panthers, y'all. I'm going to start a black owned blah, 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 y'all. We're going to do blah, 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 y'all. It was always a bunch of flashy talking because they like the attention. They like the attention that comes from talking. I don't really want to hear what you say because your actions tell me what you're going to do. Your actions speak. I think George Fraser uses this phrase. He says that your actions speak so loudly that I cannot hear a word that you're saying. So what are your actions? Look at the actions. That'll tell you because some of y'all have relatives that have good ideas that are ready to execute, that are ready to sacrifice, that are disciplined people. These are people that you invest in. These are people that you support. These are people that you want to connect with, right? So look for your solid loved ones that are in your circle, your solid friends, the people that can be relied on, the people that live by a code of behavior that says that they're going to be fully invested in the things that they do. Those are people you can build empires with. So let's keep going here. Don't hire friends or family that you can't depend on. That's a big one. That's a simple one. That's one I've learned just from experience. If you have a successful business, everybody in your family is going to come looking for a job because, unfortunately, in the Black community, we have an overabundance of relatives who have financial problems, and also we have a heavy job seeking culture. That's just what it is. I don't know how to really change all of that, but I know that we're very, very good at looking for jobs. It's almost like we're like hound dogs. We can smell out a job, right? We dominate LinkedIn because everybody's talking about job, 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 job. And I'm not shaming jobs. There's nothing shameful about jobs, but it does put a lot of pressure on you if you're the person that actually gains that unique ability to create a job for someone else, and which I think that you should do to the fullest. I think that's a great way to help other people. But at the same time, as you know, anybody who's a business owner knows that hiring the wrong person can create a lot of problems if it doesn't go well. It also creates a financial dependency that you may not be able to maintain. Let me tell you a real story. I knew a guy who ran a company that was making $20 million a year, and he started this company, and he was very loyal to his family and his friends. So when he started this company and the company blew up and they were making $20 million a year, he got this big gigantic office in New York City, that's like 20,000 square feet or something, and he hired like all his buddies. He didn't care if they had, college degrees or not. Some of them had GEDs and were making $250,000 a year because the money was flowing. The private jets, popping bottles, all that stuff, right? Well, the problem though is that they did not plan for inherent risk that comes with running a business. They didn't understand the nature of economic downturns. They got what I call trapped in the moment. They didn't understand that when times are good, if you're smart, you prepare for when times are going to be bad. They didn't understand that no matter how good things are, winter is always coming. Winter is always coming. Winter is always coming. So when the sun is out and it's bright, you do what people in Alaska do. People in Alaska that live in the remote parts of Alaska, you know what they spend their summers doing? They spend their summers planning for the winter. They're hunting, they're fishing, they're gathering food and meat and freezing it because they know that when winter gets here, you can't go hunt the way you used to. So they don't sit around in their bikinis in the summertime. They are out preparing for winter. So in business, the same thing is true. And so the problem for him and his buddies was it was the first time they were first generation millionaires. They never really had that kind of money before, so they thought that this was just the beginning, right? They said, "Oh, we're making 20 million a year. If we keep going, eventually we'll be making 50 million. Then we'll be making 100 million." And he told me all these stories about how they tried to get publicly traded on the stock market and they were just going to become billionaires. Well, then the market changed. And the way the market changed was that the blog that he had that was making 20 million a year selling ad space was in a crowded space where eventually publishers of blogs got squeezed out by the marketing companies. So basically that same article that would have gotten you paid, I don't know, $20 for every thousand reads was suddenly paying you 50 cents per thousand, right? Which is an unsustainable scenario, right? So there weren't other streams of revenue. There wasn't a way to kind of adjust to that. They got hit hard. So their revenue goes from 20 million a year to some still a good number. Let's say 9 million a year. So they're still doing good, but if your expenses are up here and your revenues down here, you're going to always lose. Even if you're making $9 million a year, if your expenses are based on a $20 million a year income, then you're not going to be doing well. You're going to be $11 million a year in the hole. So he tried to adjust. So how did he adjust? Well, the way he adjusted was he went to his old buddies, the people he'd been hooking up for years, and he said, "I need you to take a pay cut. I don't want to fire anybody, but I need you to take a cut. I know I was paying you $250,000 a year. Now I can only pay you 175. Do you know?" He said the people that I helped out the most were the ones who cussed me out, called me all kinds of sellouts and coons, and got mad at me and said I was robbing them, and like just went ballistic on me. He said it was very, very painful because all these people that I went above and beyond for were really mad at me. And here's the deal. Here's what I explained to him in terms of financial psychology. As I said, what you were dealing with was the financial stress and trauma that they were feeling from the fact that they too had expenses that were built on a certain lifestyle to which they'd become accustomed. So they, so you're making 12,000 a month, your bills are up to, you need $12,000 a month to maintain your lifestyle, and then suddenly somebody cut your pay by 30%. You can't maintain your lifestyle. You can't keep paying those bills anymore. So there's a lot of stress that might come with that. Maybe they have people that depend on them financially and they're getting pressure, right? So economists tend to have a ripple effect, right? If I can't pay you, then that means you may not be able to pay somebody else who may not be able to pay somebody else. So a lot of this anger that he felt was really just the transference of trauma and stress that they were feeling from watching their income drop. Right. So ultimately, this is one reason why when you hear that story, the one thing I want you to pick up from that from an economic consciousness standpoint is that when you get to the point where you are making money and you have your business and you're doing well, you got to be really careful about making financial commitments because I know you want to be helpful, you want to be generous to everybody, and I know I do. I love helping people, but every time I make an agreement financially, I'm always thinking about the nature of the situation, who I'm dealing with, what I like to work with people that have other streams of income so that if I can't, if we have to end the relationship, then it's not going to throw them off a cliff. I like dealing with scenarios that are more temporary than permanent, right? That way we have the option of exiting the agreement in the event that we find that cash flow is tight. Just little things like that. And then also I don't hire people I can't depend on. That's 100% true. The minute I see that you're not consistent, I have to depart from that because I can't run a business on inconsistency. Every single month when there's tens of thousands of dollars in bills that have to be paid, I can't show up and say, "Oh, I forgot to pay you," or "Oh, I had a bad month. I'm sorry, you won't get your money now." That would be a big problem. So it is in return, I can't hire people or work with people who who deliver excuses and don't deliver results because I can't deliver excuses as the boss. As the boss, I have to get results. I have to, if somebody needs money, I know they got to pay their bills. I got to get them their money, period. Right. So what I would say to you is that as you sort of climb the economic ladder, be very careful about who you financially entangle with. It's just like really, it's a lot like dating. Sometimes you can entangle with somebody in a dating scenario where things can end and it's okay, but then you have some situations that become fatal attractions where losing you becomes so devastating to that other person that they are in so much pain that they end up angry at you, they transfer that anger toward you. And next thing you know, it could be a lawsuit. It could be I hate you or I'm never talking to you again. And it's very painful when that person is somebody that you're close to and somebody you love. So money exaggerates the natural emotions that come with being friends or being family, right? So you already are close because you love each other, but then the money kind of it's like a drug that just sort of accentuates all the feelings that people are already having, and it's really really painful to lose a friend or a family member over money. And I know this because this has happened to me, and I don't want that to happen to you. And so the answer, what's the answer? The answer isn't, in my opinion, to completely detach the two. Right, because sometimes we leave money completely out of family because we feel like, look, I don't want to deal with that. It's too painful. The trauma's too deep. No, it's more like a matter of awareness, financial consciousness, just being conscious and aware of the entanglements that you make. And I use the word entanglement because I think that's a perfect term. Because when I get financially entangled with you, there's a whole lot more at stake, which means I've got to be extremely careful. You got to be careful. We've got to consider all the possibilities. And when I think about my friend's business, one big mistake I think that occurred was that when they were making 20 million a year, they thought it was always going to be that way, and they didn't have really a plan B in case the revenue dropped. And that I think it was what turned a great situation into a bad situation. So maybe in hindsight, maybe hiring a couple of relatives in a certain way and not paying them an insane amount of money, making sure you have financial reserves. Black-owned businesses have to have a lot of financial reserves because white banks don't loan money to black people. There was a recent study that I saw where they said that the amount of funding for Atlanta black-owned businesses dropped by 90% last year. Literally, all the venture capital funds and banks that were loaning money to black-owned businesses in Atlanta, they literally claimed that it dropped by 90% last year. So these businesses are dropping dead because they were living high on the hog from all the money that they were getting from their lenders. Well, one good thing that we did with our business, Boyce Watkins Enterprises, from the very beginning is we never took a lot of debt from a lot of people. We didn't take much. We didn't really look for investors. We didn't want venture capital. We didn't want any of that because number one, we wanted to be free to say and do what we needed to do. Because and I know economic warfare. I know that when you say something that you shouldn't say, first thing they do is they take away your money. But then number two, I said, no, I want to live every day as if we're preparing for the downturn. I want to prepare for winter. You always have to prepare for winter when you're talking about business and you're talking about money. People who don't prepare, they get slaughtered. So just always keep that in mind. And really, and I talked to a black venture capitalist just yesterday actually, who works for one of these big white companies that loans lots and lots of money to people, and he told me about a black-owned business that was run by a doctor that was really really impressive. It was a really impressive idea. The business looked like it was going to do great, and he looked like he was flying high. And what happened was he made headlines because this guy got, though I think this Jewish-owned company loaned him like $10 million to get his business going. And we celebrate that. Give me a yes or no. Let's consciously think about this. How many times have you seen some headline that says Black owned business gets $20 million investment to sell lemonade in grocery stores, or Black owned business gets $10 million investment to do blah blah blah, or to open barber shops, right? Has anybody seen that? And we get really excited when these businesses get all this money, right? Josephine says never. You've never seen that? Give me a yes if you've seen that. I think there was like a little girl that was selling lemonade or something, and she got this big investment, and everyone got excited because she got the investment. Well, look online. Let me see if I can find one, because some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no. I want us to really think about this. Okay, so let me see here. Um, because if you go to stuff like Afro Tech and stuff like that, a lot of times there's like white people in the back that are ready to loan money to Black owned businesses, which can be a good thing. The problem that you run into though is that when you become dependent on someone else's commitment to sustain the business or whatever you're building, if they withdraw, if they back out of the deal, you're dead. You're dead in the water. So let me see here. Let me see if I can find like one of the headlines. Yeah, I want to find one so we can kind of look at an example. Um, Okay, well, here's an article about the huge drop in venture capital funding for Black-owned startups in the U.S. and Atlanta. So this is according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and they have an image of some big conference that looks like it has corporate sponsors. Let's see, it looks like a summit hosted by the Fearless Fund attracted hundreds of attendees on Friday, August 18th, when founders Arian Simone and Ayanna Parsons welcomed the audience to the Atlanta Symphony Hall. Now, let me show you this. I'm going to show you this on the screen. This is a great opportunity for us to really discuss something that you and your kids have to really understand about the nature of funding and what's really going on when somebody gives you money. So look at this conference right here. I want you to look at this screen. Look how fancy it is. Look at that stage. I want you to know, as a person who has done events myself, I can tell you that that stage, that setup, the audio visual alone probably cost at least $100,000 to set that up. So in many cases, it's hard for Black people to come up with that kind of money on their own. So this right there tells me the number of people that are there, the way the stage is set up. That tells me that you got that there is probably some company, typically a white company, that is paying the bills, right? And this is all great. This is flashy. This looks good, right? It looks like Black progress. Well, the problem is that if they take their money away, then everything that you have kind of disappears. Your ability to function on your own is gone. So, what this article talks about is the fact that venture capital companies were coming in and offering all this money for African American owned startups, and then they just decided to back out. So let me read this to you. It says venture capital funding for African American owned startups plummeted in the US last year, with Metro Atlanta seeing one of the worst declines, according to data released Thursday by the data firm Crunchbase. VC funding for Black owned businesses fell 71% nationally in 2023 compared to 2022. In the Atlanta area, such funding declined by 79%. Investing in upstart tech companies has generally declined in the past couple years amid higher interest rates, fears of a recession that chilled investments as firms held on to cash, and turmoil in the tech industry. And I'm gonna scroll through this quickly. Still, overall VC funding declined 37%. Black-owned companies generally attract only about 1% of VC funding, despite African Americans making up 14% of the population. In 2021, the year after the police killing of George Floyd, and as businesses committed to investing in more Black-owned businesses, venture funding of African American companies reached a high water mark nationally and in Atlanta. VC investments in Black-owned startups reached nearly $5 billion in the U.S. in 2021. That figure dropped by more than half to $2.4 billion in 2022. Crunchbase found that in 2023, just $705 million in venture funding went to Black-owned startups. The first year that figure was less than $1 billion since 2016. In the Atlanta area, Black-owned firms raised $467 million in 2021, which dropped to $110 million a year later and only $23 million last year. So what I'm going to do is shut this off and kind of give you an assessment of what I'm seeing here. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm going to make it real plain. You can't really trust them folks like that. You just can't. You can't. A lot of times when we hear about a business getting a bunch of funding, getting millions of dollars, the business ends up growing very quickly. It ends up looking like the pinnacle of Black excellence. We get super excited because this shiny, bright business that's being funded with mostly white money looks better than a lot of the black-owned businesses that I see that many of you are starting that are right there in the trenches, that where you're literally borrowing money off your credit card to get things going and you're doing what you can with what you've got. Um, those businesses look much flashier than yours. And the reason they look flashy is for the same reason that we get excited about celebrities. We get excited when there's a black person that white people put on TV or they give him lots of money and they put that person on a big platform because white America has an infrastructure that we don't necessarily have. We're still building that. It's going to take a long time. So I don't get excited about any of that. And the reason I don't get excited about any of that is because I know that as quickly as they give it to you, they can take it away. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take it. It doesn't mean I'm making fun of these businesses. It just means that because I can see through, because my economic awareness is pretty strong, I can see right through the BS. When you blow up overnight because somebody went in your back pocket and gave you $10 million in funding to let you have a staff of 50 people and all that, I feel like I see that as a balloon. It's a balloon that can easily pop if they decide not to back you anymore. And this is global. This is not just economic. This is global, and this relates to the broader vision of white supremacy. Has anybody ever heard of the fall of Saigon? Give me a guess if you've heard about the fall of Saigon. Anybody heard about the fall of Saigon? I'm about to tell you a story about that. And I watched my father was in Vietnam, and thank you for your service if you are a veteran. I appreciate you very much. So my father, who's a soldier, tough black man, he fought in Vietnam. And I wanted to understand his experience in Vietnam. So I watched this 12-part 14-hour series about the Vietnam War, the whole history of Vietnam, the occupation by the French, Ho Chi Minh, and just everything that happened in Vietnam, and it just I wanted to just understand it. And so so what happened was that basically, in a nutshell, the U.S. was backing the South of Vietnam, and the Russians or the communists were backing the North. And so they were going back and forth, fighting, fighting, fighting. And the people in the South leaned heavily on U.S. military support. The U.S., they were writing big checks. They were sending thousands of troops. They were sending all kinds of equipment so that they had their back. That's what allowed them to fight against Ho Chi Minh's crew in the North. Well, here's what happened. At some point, Americans just got tired of the Vietnam War for good reason. It was a stupid war. We should never have been there, in my opinion. And when the U.S. lost its appetite for war, when it decided that it didn't want to finish the job, they just said, "Sorry, we're out. We out, y'all." So they evacuated all their people, took back their money. They left, all their equipment there. They left the airplanes. And, oh, you can have the planes and the. That's how terrorists get weapons that they use against us. Is we change sides and we just leave all the equipment over there. Next thing you know, you got people in the Taliban that have like all these American-made rocket launchers and stuff. It's kind of crazy. And so then Saigon fell because we just decided we were bored. We didn't want to play with Vietnam anymore. So we were done. So as a result of Saigon falling, it was terrible. Everybody who sided with the Americans was at risk of being murdered. Like they were shooting people in the head in the street. They were killing entire families. They were coming at them like they were the biggest sellouts ever. And next thing all these people that depended on the United States suddenly were completely vulnerable and had no defense at all. So I think about the fall of Saigon when I think about black businesses or black people economically depending on their oppressor in order to get the things you need or to economically defend yourself. I think about the fall of Saigon when I think about the fact that the same people, pay attention, let me know if you're getting what I'm saying here. The exact same people who didn't care about Vietnamese families being murdered or after the war ended, these are the same people that don't ain't gonna care about you if they backed you 1 minute and decided they don't want to back you anymore. It's the same idea, the same mindset. So a lot of your black owned businesses that go out and they get, they're the lucky ones, right? They get $5 million in VC funding. Suddenly you're looking good, you're looking shiny, you floss and you say, "Mama, I made it." But you're sitting on a bubble of lies. You're literally sitting on a big giant marshmallow that can easily be ripped out from under you at any moment. You haven't earned it. You didn't build it. There's nothing solid about the institution you have. You're leaning heavily on debt or these other partners that might bail on you at any moment. but you look like you are the most exciting, most innovative, most capable business in the Black community, because to some extent it's a little bit of a deception, right? And this is the thing about debt. Debt is, if you get access to capital, it's necessary, it's important, it can accelerate a business, but it can sometimes create a little bit of an illusion. It can also create problems in finance. There are thousands of research papers written about something that they call the free cash flow problem. The free cash flow problem is basically the problem that companies run into when they have so much money poured into them that they're not thoughtful and conscious about what they do with that money. So, because you got that $10 million investment, you're hiring all these people, paying them insane amounts of money, building all this expensive infrastructure for your business, such that if they decide not to fund you anymore, you are dead. You are gone. You have not bootstrapped a damn thing. So everything that you are is dependent on somebody else making sure that you get your next round of funding. So this business, this Black-owned business that I was speaking to a venture capitalist about last night, that had a very smart CEO that ran this company, who got really fortunate and lucky because Morgan Stanley, I think, or maybe it was JP Morgan, I can't remember which one, or it was Morgan. I think it was JP Morgan. Sorry, JP Morgan gave them a bunch of money, gave them $7 or $8 million, so they were able to build these facilities and get all this stuff done. Well, when the revenue didn't pop off the way it was supposed to, when economic conditions changed, all that funding disappeared, and now he has to endure the shame and the disappointment that comes with bankruptcy. Right. So what I would say to you is just remember that whenever a business gets money, all money's not always good money, all money's not stable money, and sometimes not getting money is better than getting money, because when you don't have all the money that you want, it pushes you to be a little more creative and a little more careful when it comes to your investment, or the way you build your business. In the very beginning, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't know exactly how things are going to play out. So sometimes somebody loaning you all the money that you need to do whatever you want is not a good idea. There was a company called run by a guy. He had a weird name like GigaOM or something. I think it was Giga something, or maybe the company is called GigaOM. Or look up Google GigaOM, GIGAOM. So anyway, this guy, he was an Indian guy. He ran this company, and for some reason, he was like the darling of Silicon Valley. So they poured all this capital into his business, right? So he had all this debt on the business, but it looked like he had a great business because he was making like $2 million a month. And he's growing. It was like a platform where they did like articles and blog posts and stuff. So the platform's growing. He's got all this money. He's hiring all these people, and then one day out of the blue, he just declares bankruptcy, and people were like, "What happened? Like, we were doing good. This was great. What are you talking? You were making all this money." Well, here was the problem. He had all this debt, and the interest expense on the debt was so high that he was spending all of the revenue paying the interest on the debt. So he looked flashy, he looked successful, but he wasn't successful. So a lot of things, and the reason economic consciousness can be very important is because there are a lot of things that look successful that aren't really successful. Debt does that. Debt is a disguise. Debt is a type of financial makeup. Well, you ever see somebody that puts on so much makeup that by the time they get done, it's not them anymore, right? Yeah, everything's fake, right? The foundation and the hair is fake, the nails are fake, the eyelashes are fake, everything's fake. Well, the same thing is true with debt. Debt can really take something that isn't that strong of a business and make it look successful, but it's only temporary in many cases. Or it can take a person and make them look successful when they're really not. A lot of ladies, for example, get tricked by men that they think are doing well financially, when really they're living on a mountain of debt. You look at his car, you look at his clothes, you look at his house, or his apartment that he's living in, or the money that he makes on his job, and you assume that he's doing well financially, but that's because in many cases you're using the wrong measuring sticks of what it means to be financially successful. Two measures of economic strength, and we talked about this before, that you can keep in mind, they kind of summarize a lot of it, are your wealth level, meaning net worth, your assets minus your liabilities, and also your cash flow. Do you have enough cash flow to pay the bills? Do you have enough net worth and enough wealth to sustain you and to protect you in the case of an economic downturn, or in the case of a financial problem? So a person who's financially secure, in my opinion, is somebody who can survive, let's say 6 to 9 months at least, if they were to lose their job. And that's one sign of financial security. Also, ownership of assets, having assets that you own that you can liquidate or borrow against in case you have a financial problem. That's where a retirement fund can even help you. Even though you're not going to use it till you're 65, the fact that you can borrow against it means that you have something somewhere to go in case you have an economic problem. All right. So understand these forms of economic awareness and don't get caught up in the flashy stuff that's out there. I want to find that headline about the little girl who had the lemonade business, because I think that was a good example of something that didn't impress me, but it impressed a lot of people. Because we think that someone getting a $10 million investment is the same as somebody making $10 million. No, someone getting a $10 million investment means they have a greater opportunity to turn that capital into income, but they haven't done it yet. Right. So there's still a lot of inherent risk. And if they can't pull that off, then they're going to have that capital pull back and that business might disappear. All right. So let me pull up the slides again. A couple more things here before we bounce out today. All right. So honestly, I would say when you're hiring friends and family, if you're dependable, that means a lot. If you're not dependable, I'm not going to work with you. I'm going to wait until you grow up enough that I can actually lean on you. Also, don't invest with friends or family with a history of unethical behavior. And this is what I call in my book, Financial Lovemaking. I talk about financial STDs. Financial STDs are problems, financial problems that people bring into your life that can affect your finances. So that means like you marry somebody who has, $400,000 in student loan debt, and you didn't know about that before you married them, then that means that perhaps it would have been beneficial for you to have understood a little bit more of what we talk about in the Black Business School about communication, and why communication is extremely important, because people will bring financial problems into your life. They'll bring all kinds of other lawsuits, tax liens, or maybe they'll marry you so they can quit their job as soon as you get married, right? So ultimately, when you talk about investing, which is really a type of economic marriage, I don't really want to invest with anybody who has a history of unethical behavior, or has one of those financial STDs, which might consist also of just bad economic habits, just bad choices, just whatever, right? So really understanding that background is extremely important when you talk about getting into bed with somebody financially. So here are a couple educational tools that kids have to have in order to build wealth. I'm going to quickly cover this, but I'm actually start back on this tomorrow. The ability to read and consume information. The ability to read well and consume information is essentially important. What matters now is not how much education you have. What matters now is how quickly you can take in new information and re-educate yourself on changing trends. If you look at, for example, AI was not really a thing people were talking about 3 years ago. Now it's everywhere. So a person needs to have the ability to consume that information and learn the new environment that they're operating in. The ability to write gives them the ability to relay that information. It's really shocking to me. Has anybody noticed how a lot of young kids text and they don't even know how to use a normal sentence? They don't even, like, none of the words are spelled properly, whatever. And then they'll go on a job or something, or they'll go do business, and they'll literally write the way that they text with each other. It's kind of frightening. It's very, very sad to me, and it angers me actually, because I'm sitting there thinking this kid spent 12 years in school, and somebody made hundreds of thousands of dollars from that kid going to school every day, and that kid can't even read or write at a basic level. And then also the ability to do math. Math is important on a basic level, because how in the heck do you think you're going to make money if you can't do math? How in the world do you expect to do a business deal where you might get 20% of the deal, and you don't even know how to calculate what it means to get 20%? I mean, this is fundamental. This is foundational. This doesn't mean you have to have a master's in math or anything. That's what I did. I taught math, so math was really important for me. Math actually was great in terms of developing like logical, strategic thinking skill and stuff. But you don't have to go that far. But literally just those basics. It's kind of strange that kids don't have those basics, and then it should be no surprise at all that a person with absolutely no math skill and no reading and no writing skill, it should be no surprise at all that person ends up poor. Think about it. I mean, you don't even have the ability to assess or discern like what strategic position you should take in order to make money. Like someone could literally rob you, and they could say, okay, I'm gonna give you X% of the deal, and this is how much you're gonna get. And if you can't calculate that or understand that, or at least talk to somebody who can do that for you, you're gonna end up in a bad spot, right? So ultimately, My belief is if I could have it my way, children would not go to public school anymore. Our children would not go to public school. I would, if I had it my way, I would take a couple $1 billion and build black schools all across the country, hire black people to run those schools, and create a curriculum that's specific to the needs of our children based on where they are in the world and what the community needs. The community does not need more employees. The community needs more people that can make investments, own businesses, own real estate, and build things. That's what you need. You need that. Now, it doesn't mean no one should get a job, right? Because if you build an economy, you have to have workers and employees. And I was explaining to a young lady the other day, she said, "Yeah, you always told me to be the boss and that being the boss is important. And that's why I didn't do blah, blah, blah." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm not saying you have to be the boss all the time. I'm not saying that you shouldn't collaborate with other people. I'm not saying that you can't work for other people." I said, "But there's a difference between me working for you because I want to versus me working for you because I have to. There's a difference between it's like if I go eat dinner at your house, there's a difference between me eating dinner at your house because I don't have a house versus me eating dinner at your house because I want to come hang out with you." And I told her, I said, "I work for people all the time. I went to Lamar Tyler's traffic sales and profit event, and I was his employee for the day. I said, 'What do you want me to do? How can I help?' You're the boss." Right? It's okay for someone else to be the boss sometimes, but what I'm saying is you have to have some space where you get to be the boss. It's like a trade, it's like a seesaw, right? Just like when we talk about keeping your poise, POISE. For children, remember that was our acronym that I want you to get your kids or grandkids to memorize. Give them $10, have them memorize poise, POISE. Um, Basically, being a producer doesn't mean that you're never a consumer. Most producers are consumers at some point. It's just you have to be more producer than you are consumer. Being an owner doesn't mean you're never a renter. It doesn't mean you never rent anything. It just means that you own something too. Being an investor doesn't mean you never spend money. Come on, we all spend money, right? So this is about balance. And one of the biggest problems, and this is the last point I'll make on this today, is that in our community, we do not have enough balance. We have too many people that are 100% consumer and produce nothing. We have people that are 100% spender and invest nothing. They save nothing, right? They 100% employee all the time, don't ever even have an aspiration to ever run anything. Just starting a business is literally out of their vocabulary completely. And I just think that that is not been, I know that that's not beneficial to the community because I know how capitalism works. Capitalism picks its victims, and the victims tend to be people that are the least prepared and the least aware. So if you want to be a victim, don't prepare, don't be aware of what's going on, and capitalism will milk you dry. They will suck you dry like a piggy on a farm. That's what capitalism will do. So it's up to people to decide, which direction we want to go. I applaud those of you that are here in going in a different direction. I wish I could get everyone to listen, but everyone isn't going to listen because a lot of us follow the crowd, and that's just what it is. Okay. All right. So a couple things. Don't forget this Wednesday night we do Powernomics training. If you want to join us for Powernomics training, it's totally free. Just text the word greatness to 87948. If you text greatness to 87948, you can join us for Powernomics training. Also, today's the last day to get the discount on the stock options summit that's going to occur in Los Angeles. And so Micah set up a 50% discount that expires today. And what I'll do is I'll put that link to the stock options summit in the chat. And so you guys can decide if you want to come out to LA and hang out with us. Stock options are awesome. They're a great way to generate extra income, and it's not BS. I'm not pretending. This is really real stuff. It really does work. Also, let's see, last but not least, the survey. If you haven't filled out the survey for this class to let me know what you think and how it's going for you and what you're learning and how you're benefiting, I hope you will consider doing that for me. It will only take 3 minutes, and I would appreciate that very, very much. All right, so let's see here. So you know what? I see Darlene's asking about the last slide. I will bring up the last slide again tomorrow. So let's go ahead and wait till tomorrow because I think today we've kind of done a lot. So generally speaking, I appreciate you very, very much, and it was awesome to see you guys, and I hope that you benefited from this discussion. And if you haven't done so yet, text the word morning to 87948. And most days I'll send you kind of a reminder that we're doing class in case I got to help you get out of bed. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you, and I'll see you guys.